More people like me and you have to be there.
Yeah, but
have to be there. But
yeah.
no, but have to be there.
Okay, I agree. Welcome to our podcast, War and Freedom Inside Talks with Giselle and Walid. Today we have an important subject to discuss for you, which is the UN. Giselle.
And in particular, we want to talk about our UN trip that we took in December, because we posted some of the snippets online and the reactions were fantastic. Like, most people really understood it, really got it. They were like, congratulations, this is amazing, this is such an accomplishment. But there were also a lot of people who couldn't put it into, assess it, like, what does that mean, going to the UN? Like, what are you doing there? And some were even critical and saying, like, the UN doesn't do anything. Why are you wasting your time? So we want to talk about all of these important aspects, but can we start with just a brief summary, because maybe not everybody was aware that we went to the UN in December and where we went and who we went this with. Can you just give us a brief summary of our experience?
Absolutely, Giselle. So we joined a delegation. You were invited by the leaders of this delegation. Probably this is your first visit to the United Nations, and everybody was very happy that you participated. We had other people who joined us for the first time. So the delegation is composed of non-government organizations, let's call them NGOs, representing Middle East American communities, Iranians like yourself, Lebanese, Syrian, Kurds, Sudanese, Darfur, etc. And every time that delegation goes up to New York, it will be joined by more organizations. Now, they represent the communities, and they went to meet with officials at the United Nations. The United Nations is the largest international organization representing the whole world, basically. But it has structures. We met with 2 permanent missions at the United Nations, France and Great Britain. Then we met with 3 offices at the Secretariat General, meaning the executive power of the United Nations, and we discussed various files. Each community has a file, but in general terms, the delegation wanted to push for democracy, freedom, and human rights across the Middle East.
The terms that you just used, like you said, like the permanent missions of the UN or the Secretary General at the UN, like, this is like Chinese terms to me. Like, it doesn't mean anything unless somebody explains to me, what is a permanent mission? Are they not permanent missions? How many permanent missions are there? What is the significance of going to a permanent versus non-permanent? What does the Secretary General's office do? Like, these structures of the UN, for a normal person like me, I can't like put them into order and understand what that is, what their job is, how important is that, and can you explain to somebody who doesn't know anything about the UN, what is that?
What are these institutions? Okay, so to make it easy on everybody, these institutions look like a government institution in every single country, but it's for the entire world.
Like a world government?
It's a world government, actually.
Okay.
So you have the General Assembly, which is the parliament of the United Nations. It has 195, maybe more now, countries. Large size, like the United Nations, like United States and Russia, and Fiji Island, they're all equal in the parliament.
When you say equal number of members, or equal say?
No, rights,
or equal rights.
Each one has 1 vote in the General Assembly for the laws that the United Nations enacts. That's number 1. Second, you have the equivalent of our National Security Council in America, for example. It's for security, defense, protection. It has 15 members. Now I'm going to come to your question. 15 members. 10 are elected every year. They change. 5 of them are permanent. These are the permanent missions. So who is permanent mission? United States, Russia, China, France, and Britain.
Wow.
Now, their power is enormous, because each one of the permanent missions, first of all, doesn't get out of the Security Council. They stay forever. And second, each one has the right of veto. Let's suppose Russia presents a plan, a resolution. France can veto the resolution, and it would not pass.
So 1 veto?
1. And then you can't pass any resolution. It's a huge power. That's why when you want to lobby at the United Nations, you're going to go to the Security Council and make sure that everybody supports your resolution, which is why it's very difficult to get that. But then you have the government, actually the Prime Minister, if you want, or the President of the United Nations. It's the Secretary General. They do the bureaucracy, they prepare for, but the Security Council actually votes yes or no.
Okay, the security, okay. Okay, that makes it much more clearer, like for somebody to understand. So we went to 2 out of the 5 permanent missions.
Yes.
Big deal.
If we convinced one of the 2 of any project for human rights, etc., they can make the resolution either go or stop it. So that was a huge achievement, that we went and met with 2 of the permanent members who are very much inclined to support human rights.
Now looking at the structure and seeing like Russia and China are in it and they have veto rights, it feels like anything that you want to bring up that's actually matters when they can veto, and they're connected to the Islamic regime, to terrorist regimes. What chances do we really have at the UN to accomplish anything? Because that was a repeated question from a lot of the followers were asking, like, you're wasting your time there. The UN has been infiltrated. The UN has been taken over by the bad forces, by the terrorists, by the dictatorships. What are you even doing there? And I remember when we walked in, the big building, there was a huge exhibition on the right side while we were walking to the Secretary General's office. The only exhibition actually that I saw, and it was about the Nakba. And I was thinking, like, when was the Nakba, first of all?
In 1947, 48.
47, 48, so that's more than 50, 70 years ago.
Yeah.
There was nothing about the events right now, like the ethnic cleansing in Azerbaijan or the Kurdistan. There was nothing about the genocide in Darfur, like anything, October 7th massacre. I was expecting there to be like an exhibition about that. Nothing about that, but strangely, a big exhibition, Nakba. What is the Nakba? Why is it there? And what is the...
Well, the Nakba in Arabic means the catastrophe. And this is a concept developed by the PLO, Palestinian Liberation Organization, considering that the rise of the State of Israel and the fact that Israel was attacked by the Arab countries and then Israel defended itself and many Palestinians had to leave their homes during the war as the catastrophe. And in fact, they explained it and Hamas explained it. The mere establishment of the State of Israel is the Nakba, is a catastrophe. So today when Hamas say, well, that's the Nakba, and there are people here who are supporting them, oh, Nakba, they don't understand what they're saying.
Nobody understands. Like everybody says it like it was like a genocide or something on the Palestinian people. But you're saying the establishment of Israel
is the Nakba.
Is the Nakba
is the catastrophe for them, which means that they have to re-establish Israel, remove Israel.
And as soon as it was established, it was attacked by all of the Arab forces.
Exactly.
That was a war. Any war is a human rights catastrophe.
Exactly.
We don't want casualties. But the significance of having that from 70 years ago at that point right now, explain to me how infiltrated is the UN, that this is there and nothing else
Well,
was there.
Giselle, you raised a question that is formidable, meaning nobody would think that if we see a Nakba, and then everything else that happened between 1948 till October 7 is not there, right?
Not there.
We were walking, there was nothing.
And current issues.
And the current issues, so
execution wave in Iran.
Nothing on Iran, that's to begin with.
Nothing to it.
But where is, for example, the massacre of Biafra? 1 million people were killed. Where is the massacre by Assad on about 500,000 Syrians? There is no Nakba on that one. What happened to Darfur? Darfur was actually designated in 2005 as an actual Nakba, as
a genocide.
As a real genocide with 1.5 million people killed. And then you go with everything else all the way to Iran, the executions, nothing on the walls of the UN. You're right. This shows that the Iran lobby, that the Iran deal lobby, because they have the money, they can influence, they can bring their issues, but then they can stop other issues. My concern is not that Nakba shouldn't be there. Yeah, they want to put it, fine, and then explain what they want. But 5 to 10 genocides, including this last summer, right? We heard that at the United Nations. 2 genocides took place in Darfur and nothing.
Yes.
So you're right, you have a point. The UN has been penetrated and has been influenced.
So my response, and I want to hear your response to the people who said, well, it has been penetrated, it has been bought a long time ago by all of the terrorists, it's useless to go there. My point was, this is the battlefield.
Yeah.
And they have taken over the battlefield. Does that mean that I say, oop, you took it, we'll leave it to the enemies and leave? No.
Absolutely
I'm a freedom fighter.
Yes.
first and foremost. So that means I'm not just like online screaming about freedom. That means I go into the battlefields. If it's not the front line in a war, it's the battlefield in the governments. Nobody is going to go to the UN from these people who bring these exhibitions over there and raise the case of Jimmy, a hostage, somebody that has been under transnational repression, almost killed in the US, kidnapped in front of the eyes of the world, taken there in solitary confinement, execution awaiting him, hostage diplomacy. The case of the people of Iran for 45 years now, suffering mass executions, the absolute horrific gassing of school children, like all of these things. Do you think our enemies that are day in and day out going to the UN will ever raise these issues? No. So if they're going day in and day out and bringing up their issues and forming the UN into the shape that they want, more people like me and you have to be there.
Yeah, but
have to be there. But have to be there.
Okay, I agree.
There is no but. We have to be there. It is there, and this is my question now. Is there a chance for us with what I'm doing? Because I'm thinking like I'm just one person, and everywhere we posted, we encouraged other people, please take your NGOs, take your stuff, take your people, go there, do that, be the other voices. If you think at yourself and you think I'm just one person, can you actually achieve something? And have you seen achievements at the UN?
I have a long list of initiatives I've been part in for many years, since I was like maybe a late teenager out of Beirut. You know, for the viewers to know, I emigrated here at age 29, but I have already had my activities, and then I'm gonna summarize this to you. But you have been answering your followers, and I follow you on Instagram and on Twitter. Do not let these battlefields to the radicals.
Yes.
And I've been reading what they were responding to you. They are asking you, clarify why, how can we do it? It's simple. If you just said something like a diamond here. If you leave the battlefield, the other NGOs are gonna move in, the other groups are gonna move in. So I disagree with those who see eye to eye with us on who is the terrorist, who are saying, yeah, that's very isolationist. Let the UN go, we don't. I disagree. I'm with you. We need to occupy, we need to liberate that space. So yes, there were many instances. I'll give you my own experience in history. I was like very young at the time. In 1978, I was at school, and I helped in crafting a memo. That's my first achievement, to get the Syrian occupation army out of Lebanon. But it's not just to crafting it. We contacted the Lebanese community in Mexico. They contacted their president, Echeverria, who was a member of the Security Council at the time. And our community in Mexico is very big, very rich, very powerful. That's the actual lobby. You
were at that time where?
I was in Beirut.
You were in Beirut. You contacted your community outside of there.
Yeah.
Drafted a resolution.
I drafted the resolution because that's where I was studying at the university as a law student.
That alone gives hope to the people in Iran who think they cannot do anything.
Absolutely, the people in Iran, anything they want to give to the diaspora, and you have been playing that role for a long time, they could send it. The people in the diaspora contact their own parliaments. You remember we spoke about how is it important, European Parliament, Congress. We had spoken to our viewers. And then they go all the way to the representative in the Security Council, in the General Assembly. And they issued at the time Resolution 436.
It was passed?
It was passed by everybody, including there was the Soviet Union, because there was a whole policy. And that caused basically the Syrian forces to withdraw from the areas they took. There was a second repeat in 2005. I was already here, and we were able to create an understanding between France and the United States. We went to the UN, where you and I went, and we lobbied for a resolution, 1559, that got the Syrian army out of Lebanon.
You got the Syrian army out of Lebanon with like going to the UN, but doing these kinds of like, wow.
But it's not just going, you have to also have the support of your community.
With the community together, being able to draft something, pushing it there, going, it is possible to do those things. Yeah. If more people were doing it, we wouldn't have the situation that we have right now, that the enemy took it over. Actionable steps for somebody who's sitting as a student, activist in Washington, D.C., New York, or Europe, or in the Middle East. What are actionable steps, step 1, step 2, step 3, to get something passed at the UN?
The most important is to begin with those memos that they can write and get a lot of signatures And then online.
Like a petition?
A petition online would be always the beginning.
Okay.
So for Resolution 1559, we had about 24,000 Lebanese Americans sending petitions. We took the petition. Signing it.
Okay.
We took the petition to the administration, and then we went up to
Which administration?
The Bush administration at the time.
The American administration.
American administration. Other communities in France did the same. So now all these governments are coming to the Security Council.
Oh, each diaspora in each country was doing it to their own governments.
Yes.
Showing the petitions. Now together you go to the...
Yes, then we push one or two administrations. In this case, it was France and the United States, and they presented the project at the Security Council.
Wow.
Yeah, and there is success. So there is hope if we have a coordination. Instead of fighting among each other in all these diasporas,
yes,
that's a big problem. If you fight, then the government you're gonna petition would not listen to you. Simple.
Yeah.
So be united, send those petitions, and then you can get the job done.
Yeah, this is fantastic. To their defense, the diaspora is not fighting.
Yes,
it is the cyber armies and the people from the regime
yes.
that start fights in there, but some people engage in it. And that's where we waste our time, that's where we waste our resources. And this is, I think, a fantastic example to show, even if the enemy has taken over something, we have to go there and
Absolutely.
we can accomplish something there.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Well, thank you also for coming and joining.
And if you have any more questions, you can always put them under the comments. We come back to them. We will make sure that every question that you guys have, and it's important for us to not be afraid to ask questions. Like, we're not all politicians. We're not like all in this field for like so long and know what all of these things mean, to understand what we have to do together to get freedom all over the world. Thank you.
Thank you.
Socials.
My social media page is free Jamshid Sharmat on Instagram and Jazal Sharmat on Twitter. And Walid?
Mine is at Walid Fares, as long as you know how to spell it, W-A-L-I-D, Fares, P-H-A-R-E-S. And we're going to reveal to them soon enough the name of our large project, the larger project, which is Educate America.